What do I think about the American election, presidential election, in particular about its outcome, which has puzzled the poll pundits, even of America? Several of my overseas friends are particularly keen to know what my take on this episode is. Frankly speaking, I made a video on this 3 days ago, posted it for some time, then took it off, deleted it, because I wasn't particularly happy with the content. My thinking on the subject seemed somewhat vague, and therefore I thought I should not continue the video on the channel. But since then, I have been requested by several friends of mine, overseas friends, who are very keen to know what I think about it. So I'm coming back again, not with the old video, but I'm doing an entirely different video this time. So let's get started. Now, first of all, I want to say that who the American president is is of very little practical consequence as far as I'm concerned. This idea that someone would become the president of the United States and then that would mean a lot to Indians or to other people all over the world, I think is a rather bankrupt idea. Of course, we are living in a global village. What happens in other countries will affect us also. But building up this kind of fad that America is the center of the world, and therefore every country, every people group anywhere in the world will be substantially affected by who holds the White House, who occupies the Oval Office, etc. I consider that to be an insult to my dignity as an Indian. And I'm sure there are other people who feel likewise in other countries as well. Um, so now the second question is, what does it mean for the United States of America? Well, quite obviously, Trump's promise that he would make America great again is something that I find quite hard to take seriously. Um, of course, politicians make promises, and as Stalin once said, promises like pie crust are meant to be broken. So I wouldn't really attach much significance to this. Also, for another reason, namely, that I don't believe that Trump is just the kind of person who can make America great again. Yes, he can make America stronger, richer, perhaps make Americans of a certain description feel more secure through his policy to control illegal immigration, etc. As to his making America great again, I have grave doubts because I don't see any element of greatness in Trump unless the word greatness has changed its meaning completely, of which I am not aware. Now, my basis for saying this has been quite well articulated by a New York Times article written by Carlos Lozada. And the title of that article is Stop Pretending Trump is Not Who We Are. Stop pretending Trump is not who we are. You can Google and read this article, which I strongly recommend. It's an opinion piece by Carlos Lozada. And I would just read out 2 or 3 paragraphs from this very interesting essay. Let's After sharing these 3 paragraphs from the article, I'll have something more to say. Losada writes, we can now let go of such illusions. Trump is very much part of who we are. Nearly 63 million Americans voted for him in 2016. 74 million did in 2020. And now, once again, enough voters in enough places have cast their lot with him to return him to the White House. Trump is no fluke, and Trumpism is no fad. After all, what is more normal than a thing that keeps happening? In recent years, I have often wondered if Trump has changed America or revealed it. I decided that it was both, that he changed the country by revealing it. After Election Day 2024, I am considering an addendum. Trump has changed us by revealing how normal, how truly American he is. Now comes the last paragraph. Now, this has to be listened to very carefully. Throughout Trump's life, he has embodied every national fascination. Money and greed in the 80s, sex scandals in the 90s, reality television in the 2000s, social media in the 2010s. Why wouldn't we deserve him now? Now, I think the author of this article, Lozada, is making a very important point. That is to say, Trump merely holds a mirror. The person of Trump is a mirror held up to the American society. And he has won this sweeping victory because he vibes well with the American spirit. And therefore, you can decide for yourself whether the victory of Trump is an indictment of the American spirit or it is a mark of hope, a sign of hope for Americans. On this, the jury is still out. But I have to say that I'm not particularly excited about the prospect that Trump holds. This is not to say that I have any interest in Kamala Harris winning. In fact, I was totally convinced that she was not a worthy candidate for the office of the President of the United States. Someone should not become the President of the United States just because the candidate is a woman. A person should win uh, based on merit and the proven suitability to that exalted office. And I don't think Kamala Harris lost because of the prejudice against African Asian Americans, the non whites, people of color. I think she lost because she is not good enough as a candidate. Biden also would have lost, pitted against Trump, and given particularly the general spirit that pervades in the United States. Now, in this context, I want to make an important distinction, which is my contribution to this context of thought. To me, there are only two types of leaders. The first we call politicians, the other we call statesmen. Statesmen. Now, the long and short of the article, three paragraphs of which I have read out to you, very clearly says in so many words that Trump is an unconscionable politician who knows how to milk and massage the American trends to his advantage. Now, that is typical of a politician. A politician's genius lies in relating to the given context in terms of what it is, so as to derive the maximum advantage from it. A politician is not a reformer. A politician is not an idealist. A politician has no exalted vision of what the society or the country needs to be or can be 10 years, 15 years down the road. He's a pragmatist. He's governed by immediacy. His concern is what is the best he can get out of the present situation. And he's particularly good at exploiting the weaknesses and vulnerabilities of his society. Whereas a statesman is exactly the opposite. He relates to the given society in terms of what it lacks. in terms of its weaknesses, its deficiencies, in order to make amends for it. Therefore, his eye is always fixed on what are the things that need to be improved, refined, ennobled, what are the lacunas to be compensated, what are the deficiencies to be provided for, and also how can the general spirit that prevails among the people of the country be made better. Now, as this article says, Trump knew how to turn the various trends in America to his advantage. Greed in the 80s, he made plenty of money, which stands him in good stead even now. Sex scandals in the 1990s. Now, you would have thought that all the sex scandals that came to light against Trump would have dimmed his popularity. Rather, it increased it. That bespeaks the moral sense of the American society. Reality television in the 2000s and social media 2010. Musk, of course, Elon Musk comes to the fore in this context. He played a very significant role in ensuring Trump's victory. Perhaps even without Elon Musk's help, Trump would have won, but not perhaps with this big kind of margin. So, Trump is particularly good at thriving on the weaknesses of the American society, the American people. Clearly, such a person cannot make America great again. He can talk about it, but he will not take a single step in that direction. Because he's not a statesman, he's a rank politician. Now, because Trump also showcases himself as a Christian, and there are Christians in America who are foolish enough to think that if Trump becomes the president, that would be a great shot in the arm for American Christianity and Christianity globally. In my line of thinking, nothing can be more stupid than this, because Trump is exactly the opposite of Jesus Christ. Now, I'll say one or two sentences on this and I'll close. If you think of Jesus Christ and try to understand him in relation to his society, what was he representing? If Trump represents the attitude of relating selfishly to one society in order to take advantage of its weaknesses, vulnerabilities, aberrations, Jesus Christ did exactly the opposite. Therefore, he became what Ernest Renan, in his beautiful book titled The Life of Jesus Christ, says. He says Jesus Christ was a rupture in the Jewish society. And he served as a rupture because only if the status quo is disturbed and disturbed to its very roots will something better be installed in its place. If you simply protect the status quo, preserve the situation, the scheme of things as it is, it will certainly help you as a politician to derive the maximum advantage of its weaknesses. But if you have an idealistic vision and if you have an idea as to how great a society a people can be, then you need to shake them in relation to their moorings or their rootedness or their fixation with the status quo. Because unless and until their present nest is ruffled, they will not spread their wings and fly forward. And surely Trump is not the kind of person who will do the kind of work that Jesus did vis-a-vis his society. And therefore, the completely contrasting destinies of both. Trump is rewarded and rewarded richly by the American people. Jesus Christ was rewarded. How richly? We all know. His life ended up on a cross on Calvary. The lonely way, the way of sorrow, the Via Dolorosa, all the way to Calvary. And that's the difference. That's the difference. So Jesus Christ actually opened up the door to the Jewish spirit becoming great again. And if anyone thinks that Donald Trump can do a similar service to the American society, I have to say, bapare, that person has to be out of his senses altogether. Altogether. This is precisely where I stand today. Of course, I'll be happy if something good, something great happens to America via Trump. Who knows? God's ways are mysterious. And God can actually be merciful to a person in spite of the leaders they choose. Though history also tells me that God punishes a people. God also punishes a people through the leaders they themselves choose. So, what is going to be the scenario in America? Whether God will bless Americans in spite of the leader they have chosen, Donald Trump, or God will uh, inspire Donald Trump with unprecedented grace and use him as an instrument, a medium for pouring his blessings into the American society, giving to Donald Trump a true change of heart, metanoia, repentance, so that he becomes a new creation. But I'm sure nobody who knows Donald Trump would entertain such exalted, quixotic hopes. And therefore, I repeat my stand again. I'm rather skeptical that America will become great again under Donald Trump's presidential watch. America could enter a different trajectory as compared to the trajectory provided for it by the Biden administration. But the Americans would emerge from it better, wiser, or regretful, time alone can tell us. So we wait with patient hope, wishing the American people all the very best, but at the same time, stating our standpoint very clearly that you can't be choosing what is merely pragmatic, um, um, an option of immediate benefit of a merely selfish kind, as against the ability to look at the American interest within the big picture, the larger context of what is good for the global community, which was in fact the distinctive greatness of America. The founders of America, the Pilgrim Fathers, envisaged America to be a city set on a hill, which gives light or shines as a beacon of light to the whole of humanity. Here in India, when Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru presented the Indian national flag to the parliament for adoption, he made a very significant speech. In that speech, he said that this flag is a sign of freedom, not only for the people of India, but for people everywhere in the world who are suffering under the yoke of oppression and exploitation. That was the vision of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Of course, we have abandoned that vision a long time ago. Today, we are jingoistic. We think that India will fulfill her destiny by becoming more and more jingoistic, again, which is a contradiction. And America is becoming an echo of that contradiction. And therefore, I have very serious misgivings about what can happen. But then it's up to the Americans to face the consequences of what they have chosen. And I'll close this reflection by posing a question to Americans at large. America must sit up and ask a question, and the question is, why is it that the great American society is not producing leaders of any stature? Some of you would remember Lyndon Baines Johnson, who became the President of the United States after the assassination of John F. Kennedy. And he had the slogan, America will become great again. Make America great again. Don't think that this is Donald Trump's invention. It is not. To the best of my knowledge, it was Lyndon Baines Johnson who said, and his great enterprise to make America a great society fizzled out into greater corruption, greater violence, and greater domestic anarchy. So, Lyndon Baines Johnson's dream of a great society petered out, fizzled out into a violent society. And America has still not recovered from that infection of violence. And if President Trump thinks that he can make America great again without addressing the fundamental moral and human issues, the spiritual issues which constitutes the foundation of the American society, I have to say that he's terribly mistaken. But again, as I say, I wish him all the best, because ultimately it's the people of America that matter. For their sake, I hope and pray that he be given an extra dose of God's grace and guidance, so that on his watch, the American society, the American nation is guided better, and that there will be a period of peace and prosperity, not just for Americans, but also for the world at large. Let me conclude this video by quoting the memorable lines of John F. Kennedy, where he said in his inaugural speech, which I committed to memory because it appealed to me a lot way back in the 60s. This is what I learned by heart in those days. He said, ask not, my fellow countrymen, what America can do for you. Ask rather what you can do for America, and what you and America together can do for the world at large. That's a vision. Trump is nowhere near that vision. And if in spite of that he thinks that he can make America great again, his MAGA movement, then all I can say is, God have mercy on America. Thank you.